Hello. Well, welcome to this live. I'm going to invite Kerrina, new from Sacred Space Yoga, to join us today for a little chit chat. I'm just going to work out how to, oh, there she is. Wave at her. I can wave at you. I'd like to invite you now, Kerrina. Invite. Just working out how to do that. Going live now with Sacred Space Yoga. One moment. Here we go. Here she comes. Hey, how are you doing?
How are you?
I'm all right, thank you. Just working out the tech.
I was
You're in your
watching. I was watching, and it said, "Do you want to send a request to be in the video?" And I thought, shall I send a request or?
Yeah. Oh, it's good to see you. How's it going?
Not too bad at all. Not too bad. Can you hear me all right out here?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly. So we've got Kerrina new here from Sacred Space Yoga, and Kerrina is fascinating to me. You are fascinating to me. So I thought I'd get you on here. As you know, I've got another teacher training coming up in October. And obviously with COVID, things have changed. I've had to change things. And it's just really interesting, I think, to see someone who has kind of had to overcome quite a lot of COVID situations. For those of you who don't know, Kerrina runs Sacred Space Yoga, which is an amazing yoga center in Weston-super-Mare. And she's just about to open, or did you get to open?
No, I was 3 weeks off.
Opening last year when the first lockdown came. So you have to change everything up. Anyway, I'd like to talk to you about that. I'd like you to talk to us about your amazing center and how you've had to go online. But also just to kind of know about you and your yoga teaching and why you became a yoga. So I've got a yoga teacher. So I've got a few questions. The first one is, why did you become a yoga teacher?
So it actually wasn't a straightforward journey for me. I did my first training back in 2009. At that time, my practice was very much influenced by the rest of my life, which was kind of hustle. So it was an Ashtanga practice, which I absolutely loved. But I guess I did a training, and it didn't tell me enough about. But why is it giving me this profound sense of contentment and calmness and just like the ability, resilience, I suppose, the ability to kind of just deal with whatever was thrown at me. So as a result of that, I carried on my practice, but still it's quite surface.
Yeah.
And then 5 years ago, I lost my dad, and it made me kind of reevaluate everything, really, from the point of view of why was I doing and striving for certain achievements? Was it because I wanted them? Was it because it was within me? Or was it because actually that's what society or familial, pressure had put on me, that's what I needed to do to be happy and successful? And then I don't even know where I found you, to be honest, Steph, but I saw your advert and I was sitting there, and it was clear to me at that point, okay, this is going to be a big deal if you do this. So rather than phone you, I sent you an email contact form. And it was kind of like, well, I've just sent an email. It may or may not come to anything. And then you contacted me. You were in Italy at the time. I think you were on a trip. You rang me, and I was like, I'm gonna have to talk to her now. And it just clicked. As soon as I spoke to you, it was just kind of like, no. Everything combined together. It was stop doing stuff for other people, start doing for yourself. And then little did I know, half of the stuff that I was going to go through my journey with you, was supporting us all through the journey. And that kind of 7 months just was a culmination of probably a number of years of things starting to get ready. And that was just a kind of a cementing of it. And so I basically, deep down, even before the training, I wanted to find out what it was that made me feel that way and how I could help other people to feel that way, you know, how I could help them out of their little confined box that we put ourselves into a lot of the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I always find that like most people join the training course right at that moment when they're just kind of starting to awaken. There's something, and then it's always like, I don't know how I found you. It's out of the blue, but you came in my news feed, and it's always kind of like helping people to go pop and kind of shooting them in a certain direction that hopefully kind of leads the way. So did you know you would be opening Sacred Space Yoga when you did the teacher training, or at what point did you realize this was going to happen?
To be honest with you, it was probably, you gave one of our modules was we had to kind of say, well, how are we going to go out into the world? What are we going to do? You know, how are we going to live our Dharma? And I kind of always had this really lovely idea of a center where you could draw people in that maybe were at the stage that I was at when it was very physical and it was all Ashtanga, but I knew there was more. I just didn't know how to get it. Or and I always had this vision of kind of a place where you could, you know, it welcomes everybody wherever you are on your journey, and then if you choose to explore a little bit more, it's there for you. You don't like have to search around and try and find it, because it's not available everywhere, and people don't know, people often don't know it's there. So no, but it cemented everything for me when I was doing that assignment, and I was kind of like, yeah, no, this is it, this is what I'm going to do. And then the name just kind of came to me, so I was like, right, that's it, yeah, thanks. I got to do it now.
Amazing. It's interesting, isn't it? Because people are always like quite resistant to that kind of spiritual marketing, or it's an essay where I get people to kind of like basically write their business plan. But, you know, it doesn't have to be a business plan, and it certainly isn't a business. I've never even written a business plan, and I've got a few businesses milling around me. But it's just this kind of like having to think about like what it would do, and it often just comes, and often people are right. You know, I've decided that there is no business plan. I'm not going to teach yoga. I'm going to let this evolve. I'm going to see what happens. But actually writing that, just having to actually voice it, often things come up, and they have to start thinking, well, is that really what I want, or am I just saying that because I'm too frightened to jump in? I mean, with these trainings, there's some people who never teach yoga afterwards, but and indefinitely changed their lives forever. It kind of made them take yoga to work with them instead of leave work to do yoga. They're kind of like making like just skillful living, really, isn't it? And then there's some people that at the end of the course, they're like, right, I'm a yoga teacher. I'm going to teach 10 classes a week, or I'm going to open a yoga center during COVID times. And it's always interesting.
We kind of had the whole, probably had the whole gamut of that on my course, didn't we? We had people that have never gone on and taught, they're just eternal students, and that's what they want. And, you know, but yeah, it was interesting as well to see how some people did evolve and change. I think we had quite a few at the start which were like, oh, I don't want to teach, you know, that's not my intention here. And then, you know, it gets you and you realize that actually, well, why wouldn't I want to share it? But yeah, how do you want to share it is, yeah.
And people find out you're a yoga teacher, like, and they're like, oh, you could teach us yoga then. And so it's like, no, I'm not going to teach. I'm not going to teach. It's like, well, I've started teaching at lunchtime at work. There's a tiny little room in the back. People will get you because they know you're a yoga teacher. Oh, amazing. So how would you say that your yoga training helped with Sacred Space Yoga then? Because I didn't really tell you how to open a yoga center, and we only did like one little module on, you know, spiritual marketing. So how did you suddenly open a yoga center?
Trusting. I remember saying to you, oh, I'm going to try harder to surrender. I'm going to try harder to trust. And I mean, it really is. A lot of it was just kind of like, give it over. I mean, obviously you have to have your numbers and, you know, all the stuff in place. And my background, I came from sort of 25 plus years in the corporate world, and my background enabled me to do that really quickly. And I think that's what I find a lot of the time is people have some fantastic gifts, but they don't necessarily know how to get them out there. So I was very lucky in that I had that background, and it almost became obvious quite quickly that some of the courses that I wanted to run weren't as commercial that you know, if I were to advertise them in the same way as anything else, my impression was that I wouldn't cover hall costs and, you know, petrol and all the rest of it, so I needed a space that would allow me to do that. But actually that was completely wrong.
Oh,
As
what?
soon as I started trusting and advertising the courses, it would have been fine. You know, there were no difference in numbers when I was running a floor-based and philosophy class than when I was just advertising yoga. So that was that was something that was in my mind rather than actually out there.
That's interesting, isn't it? We think that everyone, I think there's that perception that, like, we'd like to offer more philosophy, or we'd like to offer chair yoga, or we'd like to offer, bed yoga, but it won't make enough money. And I need to get the numbers and the bums on seats, and modern yoga is this, and it has to be like fast vinyasa, otherwise I just won't get the numbers. So it's interesting that you found that wasn't the case. I find it's not the case as well,
Yeah.
actually. I think, yoga's yoga, and people are dying to lie down. I'll pay you to make me lie down.
Yeah, so my online classes, I only do 3 at the moment, but the Friday class, so my Friday evening class, right since March last year, has been the kind of complete relaxation, restorative, unplug. And it's my busiest class. You know, people pay for them all, so it doesn't matter which ones they come to. It's not a commercial thing, but nobody wants to miss Friday. And I never would have believed that. You know, 2 years ago, my own insecurities told me, because when I came to yoga, I came for a very punishing physical practice because that's what I thought I needed. That's kind of, that stayed with me for a long, long time. And actually, it's the total opposite. People need to slow down, and I think this year has shown that more than anything. And yeah.
Oh, the bodywork. The bodywork says he or she loves the Friday evening class. Hi, the bodyworks.
Oh,
What's it
hi
like?
Emma.
Who is it?
Yeah, Emma's a local PT.
Excellent. Excellent.
So yeah, she's been online with me for a while now. So yeah, Friday
Awesome.
evenings are just the best.
So Emma, tell us what you love about it and why, if you can be bothered, and if you're not driving, that'd be great. And anyone else who's watching, if you want to ask any questions to Kerrina or to me about teacher training, or to Kerrina about her space, then please do write in the comments. It's great. So do you think the teacher training helped you specialize, or was it just that it just brought everything together? How do you think they connect? Or was it just the right timing?
It was the accessibility of it. That's the difference. So I always had this fear in my mind that, you know, somebody trusting you with their body is just such a huge thing, and I think people can take it really quite flippantly. And I
Yeah.
always just had this thing of like, what if someone presents to me and I don't know the answer? And the truth is, I don't know all the answers, but I've got lots of options. I've got lots of alternatives because of the way you taught. And I always remember you saying about looking around at the chaos in the room afterwards, and if you can see bolsters everywhere and blocks everywhere, then you know that actually everybody in that room has got what they need from the class, not just done what the person next to them was doing because they felt that's what they should be doing, which was it was another reason why I wanted a space, because it's really difficult, and I did do it, but it took hours getting all the bolsters in the car, getting them into the village hall, getting them back. That's not the fun bit of the job.
IKEA bags, right?
I know.
I remember tagging IKEA. I remember tagging IKEA in a post once, and they came straight back to me like, "Oh, I'm so glad you enjoy our bags." I'm like, "Yeah, I think every yoga teacher ever who teaches accessible or restorative has a load of IKEA bags, and it's not ideal, is it? And if you do want to be more accessible, you need more kit. I suppose accessible yoga suits the online world much more in that way, doesn't it? I've found.
Completely. And the other thing about the online, which was a surprise for me, and it's something I'm definitely going to keep, is the Sunday evening restorative, when people are going back to work on the Monday and they get that kind of thought chatter coming in at about 8 o'clock in the night, which can then affect their sleep. The restorative has just gone down an absolute storm because people can just roll into bed. They don't need to worry about parking, getting into the car, coming out of their bubble. They are safe. they can literally just shuffle
Yeah.
across
Yeah.
into their beds. So yeah, so I think not. I don't. Not all teacher trainings focus on, I mean, in 200 hours, let's be fair, you can't learn everything in
No.
200 hours by any stretch of the imagination, but the basics of accessibility, I think that's the difference. Every single 200-hour course should have at least that. And even
Yeah.
things like Nidra, I've just done a continuous professional development 50 hours Nidra course, and most of the people that had done a 200 hours, they hadn't even been introduced to it. So most people, one of the most powerful practices, most people didn't even know what it was. So yeah, I
Wow.
think the balance of what you've got in yours is kind of, it's the breadth. So obviously you need to go into your 300 hours for the full on, depth of everything.
Or specialize in small courses, I guess. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So I think,
I
I
think
mean, for me,
it's
that was
like
the
a
best thing.
diving board. Yeah, sorry. I think it's like a diving board, a little bit of everything, and you have to sacrifice other things. So, you could have spent 100 hours doing just personal asana, but, instead of had to kind of, pull back on that and give a broad thing. So your lovely Emma says, Kerrina is very good. Oh, hang on, I've lost it now. I like her teaching style, feels safe and welcome in her classes. I mean, someone feeling safe and welcome, to me, you've won. You've absolutely won at the beginning, and I think a lot of people don't feel either safe or welcome in a lot of classes. She says, I often fall asleep in the end, and we always love that when people fall asleep at the end.
She does. She does. And I say, we'll leave Emma asleep. Namaste.
Awesome. Awesome. Oh, very good. And what advice would you give to people thinking about embarking on a yoga training at this time? I mean, it's a strange time. I mean, I think maybe the numbers might be fewer in teacher trainings, or they might be more. There's this kind of two-way street it could go. And I'm interested to see if this course fills up. I've got a few people booked in, but they're, I'm waiting to see whether it's going to be, like we're churning out 200 hours like we were before, or whether it's going to be really people who really, really want to do it and are prepared to kind of, work around COVID restrictions. What advice could you give to people who are thinking about doing it now?
Are you doing it just out of interest? Are you doing it hybrid, Steph, or are you just doing?
I'm doing it hybrid.
Hybrid. Yeah,
Yes.
I was going to
Well,
say.
there were certain things I had to change because of my own energy, and because it's an accessible yoga training, because I focus on the accessibility. And when I first started doing this, I was teaching more able-bodied teachers or student teachers how to teach an accessible course. And as it's quite a niche course, then word got around and accessible yoga kind of growing. People are now training to be yoga teachers who maybe aren't, really super fit, young, healthy guys, and they are absolutely welcome, and I want them represented as yoga teachers. So it means I have to alter it a little bit. And the other point is that because it's niche, people were traveling further and further to get to me. So the 7 weekends, I mean, it worked. You traveled not very far, but there was people traveling from further, and they're kind of fitting a weekend in between Monday to Friday work. So they're traveling a long time. They come and it's intense, 2 full days, once a week, once a month. I was doing it 7 weekends and then the retreat. So people are just kind of out of it. But I still want to do as much in person as I can. But I realized that quite a lot of the theory that I was teaching, of an afternoon when people are sitting glazing over, maybe you can remember that glaze. It's just like, just try and look like you're interested. That can be done online, and it means that we can have more regular time together. So we'd have, regular Zoom calls where we do the theory and we collect. We're all quite good at holding space over the internet now. But then the stuff that I really feel is important, the how to teach section and some of the more practical bits, we will meet. So it's not so much. It's kind of our weekend. It's a day and a half once a month for 6 months. And then there's online regular dates, and then there's the retreat, which is also, you can do the retreat or you can do a live streamed retreat if travel to Italy is not accessible to you for any reason. So it's kind of a hybrid version.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's a really good. I was just going to say it's a really good option because that's the one thing. So during these times that I've found, so really positive parts of it, training online are exactly that. You don't have that. You don't necessarily have to have that dead time, and if you don't. If your body doesn't like, I mean, yeah, we have people sitting in the car. I think it was 3.5 hours one way, 3.5 hours back. You know, some
Yeah.
bodies don't like sitting for that amount of time, and actually it makes it so much more accessible. But the one piece of advice that I would give is do look at the content, do really actually look at what you're getting in that 200 hours, because they vary massively. That's becoming more and more obvious to me as I meet more and more people. And the other thing that I think is invaluable, if you can do it, is the retreat, because that's something that I think it's not very often you get the opportunity to go away with a group of people that you're already you're already safe with because you've spent a lot of time with them, away from everything. And I think that's almost where everything kind of pulls together, cements, and you kind of go, yeah. And obviously with Leela as well, you know, that addition of some of the stuff that comes in right at the end of the course, you just kind of leave there you're just kind of like, I've got this. I
Yeah.
know what I want to do. I know how to do it. And also, like, you know, it's 2 years since I went to Italy, and like, I still go
Yeah.
to you. You're still there. I still go to you and I say, oh, Steph, you know, I've got this
Yeah.
coming up. Can you help with this? Or what would you do in this situation? And I think a lot of trainings, you don't necessarily get that. And I guess you're joining a community, and
Yeah, you most
that's
definitely
yeah.
are.
I
Yeah.
hadn't realised
And I
quite
still
how
go
much
to
until
you.
I did
I
some.
still go to you. I still ask you for all this help. Like, Karina, how do you do that amazing talk? The internet graphics. Yeah, it's good. You definitely join a community for
Yeah.
sure. And yeah, the retreat is amazing. I mean, it is, something that quite a lot of it, I feel I've had to think a lot about the retreat in terms of accessibility, obviously, wheelchair accessible and, people who may not want to travel in COVID times. And I figured that, if you can get to it, it's brilliant. But if you can't get to it because of something or another, it might be that you don't actually need that lesson. You don't actually need to kind of be away. And what we
Yes.
try and do with the retreat is try and get people to live together, to eat together, to share food together, to really kind of embody the practices. I think in the accessible world, probably, a lot of people who are less able-bodied have already had to learn those lessons in their lives, like sharing and, working as a team and being helped. So, I hope that, being able to offer the live stream and the retreat, but definitely the retreat is, the content of the retreat is where we bring everything together at the end. You've planted seeds of like philosophy and how to live, and you've changed quite a lot during the 7 months leading up to the retreat, because you can't help but change. And then we kind of, Leela comes on the scene. We're like, we just kind of do our magic. Leela's doing live with me on Saturday, actually at 3 o'clock, if anyone wants to join. She's our philosophy teacher, and she teaches the yoga therapy modules on the 300 hour as well. So she's coming. So yeah, the retreat, I'm glad you're talking about that. It's been really difficult because obviously the retreat's closed at the moment as well, but I'm hopeful that by April 2022, when the retreat as part of the TTC, hopefully we'll be able to do it. And if not, we will do what we had to do with this year's group, bless them. We did 6 weekends. We did all the 7 weekends. And then it came to their final retreat, and COVID hit, and we did an online retreat, which everyone was a bit hesitant about. It was very difficult because it wasn't, if we'd have been able to plan in advance, we would have not had, 6 days full time. But, by the time it came, everyone had that time booked off. So we had to go ahead with it. And it actually worked out really, really well. So we definitely, Lena and I sorted out on how to kind of hold space in online communities and how to kind of get the same kind of collective. And obviously it's not the same, but we did the best we could, and it gave us the realization that if things go wrong, you can still create connection online, and you can still, with different tweaks, you can still offer this. So any of the programs now that any of us run, we have to have this backup plan, that you have to have a way of doing it online just in case. And that might mean tweaking the hours, because obviously in person you can be together for longer hours because it's not so draining, whereas on Zoom you're going to have to put more breaks in, not do big chunks of time. So you have to be able to tweak it. But I think that's, you know, in a facilitating way is really important, that you kind of tweak it. So yeah, the retreat, we will have that. And tell me everything about, before I let you go, back to your lovely tweeting birds, tell me everything about Sacred Space Yoga, and when can I come? And when are you having the inauguration party?
Oh, the opening party that's been cancelled more times than it's been scheduled.
Yeah, that one.
So we're in the centre of Weston, and we're a studio, but we've also got a couple of treatment rooms upstairs. So just as I want to be able to offer all different types of yoga, all different types of experience to everybody, there's also lots of other lovely things that you do and you teach other people to do. So Steph's also taught me massage and Reiki, and she does all sorts of other things as well. And again, a lot of these healing modalities people might not have really ever felt comfortable enough to go to. So I want it started to happen last year. I opened in July. We made it open for a while. No, it wasn't July, it was September. We made it open for a while, and we were starting to build that community. And that's what I want it to be, really. It's a hub. Someone's just decided to start doing some DIYs, sorry. I want it to be a hub where people can come. I'm just having some gates put in at the moment, so the garden is all nice and private, so we can stop after class and have a cup of tea in the garden, and things like just spaces that I've not had before. So I went to the World Yoga Festival, not last year, the year before, and they did the talks were just amazing. So I've bought a big projector screen so we can watch them together and talk about them after. And it's almost that thing. It's like my poor husband, he doesn't want to talk about all this stuff with me, and I'm like, well, I've got no one else. So yeah, I want it. It's not just coming and making shapes with our body. It's so much more than that. It's a place where we can all just come, be together. You know, you might not even necessarily, you might just want to be in company. You might just want to sit there with a cup of tea and not necessarily chat, but you just might want to be somewhere. And that's my dream for how it will be. And you know, we started to build it last year, and it will come back stronger. And yeah, it's just going to evolve and grow over the years. So yes, I can't wait for you to get there, and I can't wait for everybody to get there. But
Emma says she wants to come and see it too. Emma says, I want to see the Sacred Space Yoga Studio too. I think you are a credit to this kind of faith and trust as well. You know, you don't look like someone who almost opened a yoga studio, you know, has put in so much time, money, effort, you know, having to swing from one extreme to the other, I'm sure, emotionally, spiritually, mentally. I think your yoga practice is a credit to you. You're obviously doing something right. So it's an amazing feeling for me to have been part of that journey, and hopefully to continue being part of that journey. So you are doing a great job, Emma says, and I say too. And just inspiring people. And even, you know, like today you put a post out, you're going to be giving money to the India crisis, I see, and you're always doing fundraising. You know, you are an absolute inspiration. So I'm happy that you exist. I can't wait to come and see. What else have you got coming up? What have you got that you can advertise right now in this space?
So unfortunately, when I reopen on the 17th, I'm sold out for ages because I had so many things booked in. But keep an eye out for Sunday evening, the restorative and nidra sessions. You know, they're probably
online.
Yeah, they're online. So they're things that, you know, obviously I can have more people. But yeah, please go on to sacredspaceyogastudio.com, sign up for the newsletter. There will be another charity event coming up for summer solstice. So Refuge are still really needing our help and our funds. So there will be something coming up about that soon. So yeah, sign up and get involved and become part of it.
Awesome. Oh, thank you so much. So this was Kerrina New talking to me, Stephanie Shanti, about her teacher training that she did with me 2 years ago with Shanti Centre Training School, 200 hours starting in October, yoga and spiritual development with a big emphasis on making yoga accessible for everyone. And that means accessible in all ways, as many ways as we can, you know, and to continue learning and to continue growing and to help us live skillfully. And Kerrina is just the epitome of skillful living. So I've been really happy to talk to her, and I'll put this on IGTV in a minute. So if you want to get in touch with us, please do. Thank you so much, Kerrina. Go and help that guy doing his DIY now.
Thank you.
I'll see you soon.
Steph.
Over and out.
Bye.
Bye.